Well, good afternoon to you all. Welcome to Nature Folklore Sessions. It's a sunny 25th of April 2021. Well, thank you all for joining me here on this lovely sunny afternoon out here in the middle of the willow cairn in the tree labyrinth here. Lovely temperature, 16 degrees, I think 62 Fahrenheit, and a gentle east wind. Perfect conditions for our weekly time of exploring nature centered folklore, connecting this within your favorite sanctuary space, which I am right now, and expressing your inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, art, craft, performance, and problem solving. Now, today's Sunday sessions may be actually the least folklorist of all the sessions that I host on Sunday. Yes, possibly of the craft that's most guided by folklore, which is growing and rearing our own food. So this afternoon, the theme is, if you've seen the introduction, food sovereignty or food security. And the guests today, they include home smallholder Kate Burrows of Happy Jack's Market Centre. Let's get a picture up. There we are. We've got Kate and Alan there, and a lovely phrase from Alan. And we've got another home smallholder, Sue McMillan of Bala Home Farm. John's not in this one. I'm going to mention that a bit later on. And the wonderful people, some wonderful people from the Courtyard Market Boyle. There's Jenny of Eric Nurseries. That's a selection of what she was plants that she's been selling, and she actually supplies plants to quite a few stall holders. And we're going to have a bit of breed of Meritonin, and the hens and their eggs. And lovely thing, all these four women have wonderful support husbands who are a bit camera shy, but they're great partnership teams, and you'll see through the show what great work they do. Um, Now, there's also featuring, yes, these wonderful people. It's embarrassing, I forget their names, but they do these wonderful salads. Minimal Cottage Industries in Leitrim near Manor Hamilton. So excuse me if you're watching and I've forgotten your name. Now, to remind you, these Nature Folklore Sessions in the Carracroy Labyrinth Gardens here are brought to you largely due to our lovely Patreon subscribers, and some of you subscribers are watching here live today. Thank you again for your constant support, because without that support, I may not be here this afternoon being able to host this. So it's wonderful. And let's see who's with us this afternoon, right at the start here. Our lovely regular Donna Johnson's here. Good morning from New Mexico. And Davina is becoming a very regular from beautiful Virginia, and North Carolina, Candice Batten. So we got a great USA support to get us going here. Thank you very much for that. As I say, it's lovely to be outside for this nature folklore session, which was formerly the Carracroy Sunday sessions, and we're still on Sunday. Now, usually, regular watchers of this, you know that I do presentations and talks, and I have loads of photographs. So I must apologize this time. I never have time being out in the lovely weather and preparing what I did. So you've pretty much seen the photos that I managed to put together. So I hope you don't mind me presenting and enjoy the videos. We've got some video guests. So I trust you will enjoy this show. Now, to start off with, I'm going to start with part of the video when I did this food sovereignty or versus food security last year. It was pretty much the same weekend last year. And I'm just going to give you a bit of the introduction I did last year, and I'll be back with you afterwards for a bit more. So, okay, let's turn on the jukebox here. Food sovereignty or food security. Very much a a topical thing at this time. A lot of people are digging up their lawns and seeing what they can plant and what they can grow. And it seemed just like a couple of weeks ago when the supermarket shelves were being emptied of toilet paper, sanitizer and all kinds of stuff. There's now the plant centres. Their shelves are emptying of plants, of seeds, but people not actually visiting, ordering online. If they can, the garden centres, they're getting oversubscribed. It's like booking rock concert tickets with some of these plant centres. Very difficult to get through, get your order in, and then by the time the order's in, they've closed the service. It's been swamped. But I hope you've been able to get on and explore your land if you've got some to play with. If you're in an apartment, I'm going to certainly talk about that a bit later. How many of you got children who generally are not happy about eating their vegetables? Have you got children that won't eat their carrots, won't eat their cabbage, and all they want is the fish fingers, they want the pizza, but to put the vegetables in front of them, oh boy. But how many of your children help in the garden? I was quite fortunate because my father, when he was around, certainly his brothers and my uncles, great uncles and aunts, they were out there in the garden. The gardens were important to them, and especially the herb gardeners, because they used the herbs a lot. And on my mother's side, in their later years, her brother, my uncle, and also her father, my grandfather, they started getting into the gardens and were very productive. And I was inspired by this. I loved being outside, and I loved going round and the wonder of relations' gardens, and I had to have my own little patch. And in my own little patch, I was helped along obviously by adults, so it was the simple things. I had radishes, and I had carrots, and I had spinach. And of course, when the radishes came up, they were quick. You know, if you grow the little salad radishes, they almost turn into radishes the day after you actually put the seeds in. It's as if the fairies come along, boom, you've got radishes. So what I used to do was actually pull them up and eat them, mud and all. No patience with the radishes. With the carrots, I was a little bit bolder because I'm going to eat my carrots. So I would actually pull these up and I'd take them in the kitchen. I'd want them on a plate, maybe steamed a bit, but I'm going to eat my carrots. And then, of course, with the spinach, even if you went to the cinema for the children's matinees, there was Popeye. So, of course, I had to eat the spinach. And I remember one day, my father, he was still a little bit annoyed with me because when I was sort of in the womb, apparently he got absolutely furious when my mother and her parents said to him, "You're going to have to get rid of that Austin Healey sports car. You're going to have a family car." And the Austin Healey was his pride and joy, and he was always grumpy that he had to trade that in. And he traded it in for an Austin A50 Countryman family car. And I remember I saw him pushing this car up the driveway towards the cottage. And I thought, oh yeah, I've been eating the vegetables I've grown, I can help out. So I went out and went to help him push, and well, I offered to help him push. He said, "Oh, are you capable?" I said, "Oh yeah, go away, I can do this." And he said, "Well, you're only small, you can." "Oh, Dad, I ate my spinach, I can definitely push this." So the two of us tried to push the car. But anyway, I certainly had no trouble eating my vegetables. So that's an encouragement. Are your children actually planting some seeds, planting some plants even, and growing their vegetables so that they actually will eat what they grow? And that's quite exciting. And to me, that's an example of food sovereignty, because food sovereignty is really where the responsibility of food is actually in the hands of the people who grow it, distribute it, and eat it. And that is something very precious. And in a way, people talk about what is spiritual. I find that's something that is very spiritual. It's quite often I say, how can someone be a shaman or a druid or something like that unless they actually had their hands in the soil, unless they were that bonded with what grows and also what is shared amongst the people. Let's look at the food security.
And I think people think, well, the food security is something that's extremely important to us. And perhaps it has been. There's always this question that if there wasn't what is called the Green Revolution, the food security, and with the vast population, the way that it's increasing around the world, would we been able to feed ourselves, starting off like I did with a little child with a little patch of ground that perhaps grew enough food to keep me for a week? Are we able to do that? Are we able to preserve food? I certainly, when I was younger, I learned things like putting vegetables in salt so they would preserve, and jarring, bottling, pickling, all these type of preservation things, because in the 50s a lot of people didn't really have refrigerators and freezers. So there are all these traditions, and this is important, all these traditions that we had, and I'm going to come back to that one as well. But with the food security, it's how can we actually have policies where we can grow all this food to feed all these people around the world, that nobody should go hungry. But of course, as we know, there is a lot of hunger. There are droughts, there are famines, even with this food security. One thing about the food security, I suppose the plus of it is that it does enable things like bread and rice and even various vegetables. We can just go along to the supermarket, they're there, we eat them, and we're fed. The downside of this, obviously, is in order to increase the yields, it's what's actually been done to the food, and this is what a lot of people are kind of wary of, because when food is done in a mass like that, we've suddenly surrendered our own sovereignty to our own food growing, our own distribution. We've handed it over to politicians, that's been handed over to corporations, and a lot of this is run by working out spreadsheets and databases. These are not actual people that get out onto the land and till it and look after it and actually treasure it. These are people who are scientists. They're, what do they call them? Bioengineering people. And this is what's happening, is suddenly the traditional ways of growing has been replaced by the bioengineering, as if that's going to have all of the answers. And even farmers over the years have found they've dropped their traditions, and they've become sort of, in a way, apprentices to bioengineering. And GMOs is certainly something we all know about, where seeds are genetically changed so that they have greater yields, that they're resistant to pests, far away from the original local seeds that we had. And it seems to what's come from this, a lot of people are now claiming they've got food allergies, and that's one of the things they put it down to. But even with the GMO seeds, GMO growing, there's a greater use of insecticides and pesticides, and the value on farmland seems to have changed, where it's about getting more land to grow more food, so the hedges go down, the fences go down, but through all that there's soil erosion, which means more fertilizers, and we have a lot of problems like that. But even so, it seems as if we're getting fed by food security. But there has been a kind of change. I haven't got the dates in memory. I would say that really the Green Revolution, as it's called, to have the altered foods, has been around, I suppose it kicked off in the 50s, but it really got going in the 80s. Australia, I think, was perhaps the leader of that, and then it went into certainly big time in Mexico. And India was big on it. Suddenly, India, who was having lots of famines because of the Green Revolution, they were producing a lot of food to feed people, so their famines went down. But Australia got the consequences because land became barren. In Mexico, it became a bit of a confusion. I think they're looking more at the food sovereignty and the community methods that were there with the Incas way back. So it's been a very touchy thing. Could we survive without the food security system? Somehow I don't think so, not for a while, because with food sovereignty, we've lost too much of the traditions. I find I'm scraping around trying to rediscover some of the traditions that I used when I was young. I've forgotten them. I have to look up YouTubes and I have to watch YouTubes to bring this all back again.
Okay, that was how I started off last year. Let's see what your comments are on that one. And Davina, there's something there. Oh, I've got to get rid of the remove it. There we go. There, you got me back again. Okay, because this is a new utility on the StreamYard, which is absolutely wonderful because I can put bigger videos on now. So thanks for speaking out. Good morning from Winnipeg, Brittany. I hope you'll catch the beginning of that. Claire's in this. Marvelous to see you in the labyrinth. Oh, it's beautiful. I hope it's beautiful over in Dublin there, Claire. I'm sure it must be. Shell's here. Great greetings from Wisconsin, at least for now. And how pretty everything is turning green. It certainly is. The willow cairn here is just starting to come into leaf. Next time I'm in here, you'll see the whole thing well and truly covered once we're into May. So thank you very much for that. As I say, for the people who've just joined us, this is not going to be the usual pictorial thing that I do because I didn't find the time to sort out the picture. So I hope you enjoy what we got. There's more video clips coming. So it's a bit more of me anyway. But continuing, I suppose, from what I started with there, the recording from last year, food sovereignty, I think, has wonderfully come to the fore during this COVID time, this COVID infection prevention time. And it started during the cocooning, the strict cocooning, when nobody really understood what this COVID was last year, with all the distancing and isolation. It's still going on, but not so much this year. But there's some changes that are going on. Things were learned last year. And I think you'll find it where you live. It's really taking off, this change that people are doing. And this is what I'm going to talk about. Because over the past decades, people have been moving from rural living to urban living. Excuse me. I don't know what that was. I do apologize for that. Sorry for the unprofessional moment there. It looks like our lifestyles have become far less focused on land management and on the gardening. It's become, over the decades, it seems to have become more focused on us earning bigger salaries and getting more financial security. And I think many urban dwellers do not have gardens now, not like their parents. They don't even have allotments, though they may be around the town. And very few work with urban community gardens, not until recently, maybe. It means that most people really have become detached from the senses of hands and soul in the land, totally detached from that. What's that doing to us? Perhaps going to the park may be the closest connection that urban people have these days. So food and eating has really become about shopping at the supermarket or going to the cafe. I remember when I was shopping, when I was running a cafe, that some people were asking for some chicken meat, and the whiter the better. And if you raise chickens, and if you actually kill off chickens, I don't eat chicken myself, but if you do and you cook and you rear them yourselves and you raise your own chickens, the thing you won't find is any white meat within that chicken. So it just shows where it's gone. And the concept of cooking food seems to be often just heat it up in the microwave. And I hear of engineering people at Google and Facebook, places like that in Dublin, they're earning over 100,000 a year, quite a few of those engineers. But if they'd remained in rural area, growing food, farming, maybe picking harvest, their annual income might have only been about 20,000 a year. So what is this value on income? How is this income valued? 100,000 a year engineer at Google may depend on the 20,000 a year food grower to eat, to actually have the food in the cafes. And, they can't eat without these growers, even if the food was picked up as a takeaway. or pre-made or pre-packed and thrown in the microwave. It still relied on those 20,000 a year uh, figures. That's if it's Irish food, and you know very well if it's from other countries, it could even be into slave labor. Yeah, that the 20,000 a year growers, they don't really need to go on Google search or Gmail to survive. I suppose some may need to go onto YouTube to learn how to grow things, though, and they learn that. I don't know why someone's phoning me up. Oh, it's Claire. Is something going wrong there? Hello. Something. Hello. Claire's phoning. Is everything okay with the broadcast? Are you hearing okay? Anyway, overall, I feel that it's an unbalanced human value. Anyway, Claire wouldn't be phoning for no reason. Let's see if everything's okay. Sound. There's a sound problem. Is that right? Okay. Can't hear you, and you're full blast on my end. So what's happening on the sound? Uh, the sound went down, said Davina. Right. Let's try this. Right. I'll go back. Sorting sound out now. Let's see what we're doing. Microphone. Hello. You should be. That should be. Sound should be back on. Is that right? Can anybody? Can someone just poke a message in? That should be the sound sorted. It jumped off. Can someone say? Is that better? Is that clear enough? Yeah. Oh, great. Right. If you don't mind, I'll try and because that means you probably missed a lot that was going on. Did it? Did the sound go out after the video finished? It must have been. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you don't mind hanging on a bit. I'll just cover that again. What I was saying, the food sovereignty has wonderfully come to the fore during this COVID time, as in our infection time, and last year when the COVID wasn't understood, and we were cocooning, and there was extreme distancing and isolation, and they're still going on, of course. And over the past decade, people have been moving from rural living to urban living, and it looks like our lifestyles have become less focused on land management and gardening and got more focused on getting that bigger salary, the financial security. And many city dwellers do not have gardens. A lot of them don't have allotments, and very few work in the urban community gardens. And so, what I feel when people become urban, they become detached from the touch and senses of hands and soul, that whole sensory involvement with the land around them. And when you're urban, going to the park may be the closest connection that you have to any of this. And food and eating becomes about shopping at the supermarket or going to the cafe. I don't know if you heard what I was saying last time. Cooking seems to be just throw stuff in the microwave. And I hear of engineering people at Google and Facebook in Dublin earning 100,000 a year or more. And if they remained in rural growing, they may have been farming, picking harvests and so forth, and probably earning about 20,000 a year. So what's this value on income, and how is income valued? So you've got the 100,000 a year engineer on Google actually depending on that 20,000 a year grower, or the growers in plural. And that's if the food is Irish. And obviously if it's from overseas, then there's slave labor and all that kind of problem. Even if food's taken as a takeaway or picked up pre-packed, it relies on those 20,000, those low-income people anyway. So where is this value? And even the value on the quality of food. When the sound was down, I would give them that example when we had a cafe.
And I was shopping for meat because I don't eat chicken, but people order chicken, and they would be asking for chicken that was the whiter the better. And for people here watching who keeping chickens, you know very well if you kill off your chickens and cook them, the last thing you'll find in your chicken is white meat. Anyway, the 20,000 a year growers, they don't need to go to Google search or Gmail. They don't need to do those things to survive, like the Google engineer relies on the farmer and the picker. So I suppose some now, if they decide to grow things, as people have done through COVID time, and decided to do something with gardens, go to YouTube to learn to grow things. So we do depend on Google. I think that's one dependency we may have now, is Google and YouTube, learning how to grow things away from over the urban situation, or even urban balconies. I'll talk about that in a minute. Overall, though, isn't this unbalanced human value? I believe there lies a clue to our increasing disconnections in all of that. It seems as if we've been changing from a community culture to a culture that's about greater acquisition. So should our culture be profit before people, such as the secure salary, etc., or people and their communities before the profits? Anyway, to stride away from this is really political, isn't it? It does seem that more people are maybe inspired by their isolation, because they've been separated from people through this COVID time. Seems people have been digging up some of their lawns and have been creating food growing gardens. And the idea of digging up the lawn or having a food garden is something they've put off for years. They've been busy working and saying to themselves, they've been meaning to grow some veggies, but don't really know how to go about it. So that's why they head for the YouTubes. There are some very good YouTube channels that have sprung up in the last year or so. So it's a good thing, I think. Sales of gardening books have obviously done very well. And so have gardening courses on Zoom. We come into the Zoom age now, and there's some great ones. And I know last year I was talking about the Joanne Lindsay Butler of Organic Gardens up in Donegal. Her courses are becoming amazing there, and it's worth looking out for our organic gardens. But the overall attitude of the new COVID generation of gardeners has delightfully been, let's have a go at it. Let's have a go at it. Isn't that the perfect attitude? Never be concerned about the yields or trying to map out your potential yields on spreadsheets. And don't worry too much about supplies and equipment. Just use what you've got around you as much as you can, what's easy to get hold of. What can you get locally from local garden suppliers? And I've noticed that local garden suppliers have really loosened up in the last year or so. They've really tidied up their online ordering, made that a lot simpler. And they're very good with home delivery too, which they used to ignore. And even the local couriers like DPD here and others, they seem to actually be service deliveries rather than being awkward customers like they were. They're really providing a good service, it seems. A lot more courtesy and efficiency, and a very fair delivery charge, I think. And there's new small growers that are also, they're networking together. And I'm going to have examples shortly on video of where this is happening. Because I'm going to show you a grower who actually supplies plants to the new local business veggie growers. Fantastic networking. And so all this helps us to allow locals to network and feed us healthily within a decent spending budget, and building a great social local economy as well as considering being more active with our local food sovereignty. Now, I wish I could have shown you pictures and all that. If you've missed or if blurred with the sound, that I haven't got photos today. I didn't have time to prepare them this year. So I hope you don't mind me trying to explain this verbally. We've got some nice little videos coming up anyway. Anyway, we've with our food attitude, I think we've teamed this up with our body sovereignty as well. We're thinking much more about where we eat, what we eat, where we get it from. We're really focusing on locally. I noticed on our local courtyard market in Boyle, It's been phenomenal, the number of people the last 2 weeks. They've never had crowds. You know, there's real long lines now. It's like when I went to the market as a child. It's really huge. People are really supporting local. So I think we better get on to. I'm going to see what is anybody saying anything. I hope everything's okay. Yes, you're coming up with stuff. The Davina's saying communities first. It was a bit quieter for a while. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, Kate. The actual sound driver dumped itself, so I had to bring it back up. So I hope you agree. I don't know what happened there. It wasn't a StreamYard thing. It was something on the computer that slipped. It does that, as you know, with your own computers. I can hear now. I hope it's all. Yeah, Claire seems to think it's sounding great. Fantastic. Right. So let's get into some. I was talking about small growers. I'm looking forward to this. Excuse me with my throat there. And I'm going to introduce a home market. It looks as if it's been a market thrown on a lawn, but as Sue said, it was a bog. They've actually put a market garden onto a bog. It looks absolutely fantastic. Her and wonderful husband, John. So without further ado, I'm going to slide in a bit of a video that includes them. But in this video, I've also start off yesterday. I did some clips at the Courtyard Market in Boyle. And so you're going to get some of the characters there. You're going to get Jenny from Eric Nursery. And as I was saying, she actually supplies some of the people we're going to be featuring today. So I trust you enjoy this. In the USA, beg your pardon, it's all very local and Irish. As I say, it's about our own food sovereignty, which hopefully you can establish, or you have established where you are. So here we go with the next video here. I hope I got the right one. There we go. Off we go.
Plants. Most of them are gone because of
This is an F1, is it? Because last year I had the other one, because it was such a performance
With Brie, and she will sell her eggs out. First thing, it's all gone. There we have an empty table. It was eggs. How many hens do you have for laying?
Just under 300, John.
300,
Yeah.
goodness. And what space is that over?
They're on about 2 acres.
Goodness.
It's 4 houses on 2 acres with different runs all around them.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah.
And how many eggs do you get a morning from
It depends because a hen won't lay an egg every day of the year.
Aye.
You get about 280 when they're laying at their peak per year from a hen. So sometimes you'd get 12 dozen, sometimes 13, and when they're all laying together properly, you'd get 15 or 16 a day.
So you had 280 eggs disappear in about 10 minutes here then? This morning?
Yeah.
Oh, very good, amazing. Hello. How are you doing? There are different names to what's on the sign here.
We're mainly more cottage industry.
Well, on Facebook we're on Half a Bees Launcher, but we're going to be changing that.
Oh, is that how it is?
Yes, it is.
Oh, incredible. Now, all these wonderful salads we get, do you mind if I ask where you get the ingredients from?
From the local shop.
Man called Cherry Mom. And during the summer we'll be growing stuff ourselves and
Right.
we'll be using that.
How big a growing area do you have for doing this?
The growing area we have about half an acre.
Oh, fantastic. So you can get quite a bit from that.
Yeah.
And we do. We also use other fellas that grow locally around us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in Hamilton that grow their own veg, and they provide us with the spinach, with the pesto, and all that stuff.
Now, after a couple of hours, Jenny's actually got no customers. Almost sold out, and I'm going to pick up a whole tray of raw beans.
You are?
And one thing I've been learning, it's not just the customers here, you've been supplying people who've started up growing their market gardens. Sue and John, a Bala for one.
Yeah, they're getting into it really well. She's growing some of her own, and then she's some of our stuff that's earlier. So it's working out really well.
I'm enjoying doing it.
Are there any others like that, you?
There are a couple that don't tell us what they're doing, but we know from the amount that they're buying every week that they are.
Oh, and that's fabulous, because what I'm presenting here is the whole idea of all these people that have just converted their lawns. It's obvious that Sue and John, they just plunked raised beds on their lawn, they're in business.
They were, and do you know, they've got really nice little community growing around there as well. Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't get to see much of anybody anymore because it's silly season.
Yeah.
But so many people are growing things and doing that haven't before. It's really nice.
Our farm shop, Bala Farm Shop. It was a dream that I've had for years and years and years. August 2020, lockdown, COVID lockdown, I decided to open a farm shop. I'd undertaken a business degree just because I wanted to do it for no other reason. And the first module about business and a project that you would love to do. And I did Lupin Lane Farm Shop, and the lecturers came to me and sort of said, look, you've got something here, have you thought about doing anything with it? So I did, and we have the farm shop. So the whole concept, wherever possible, is that we source local produce. So for instance, we've got the complete range here from Flo's range. She's in Boyle, artisan producer. All the eggs that we sell come from Kilchamar. We do a vast array of cheeses. This is one of 2 cheese fridges that we've got going. A vast array of cheeses, and we've just purchased a new display fridge as well. And then on a Saturday, what we do is we bring in veg from as local as where we can, but if we can't, as a minimum, if we can, Irish. So we're trying to do that, shop local, keep the produce in Ireland, etc. So we have plants for sale as well. I got those roses and overwintered them. And then we also partnership with Erit Nurseries, good friend of ours, and we buy their veg plants. Some of these are ours, some of these are Erit's. So it all depends. Some things I can grow and some things I can't grow. And then we sell those on. So we're encouraging people to also grow their own. We want them to grow their own. We do basket plants. I got these quite early in the season. I'm making baskets up for them. And then other plants, cucumbers I thought were frosted, but they're coming back. I thought they had a touch of frost on them. So like I say, some of the stuff that we're growing, some of the stuff Erit's growing, and we just partnership together and do what we can do. And then we also grow our own produce here, which we eat, obviously, but also put into the basket. So that's the first lot of potatoes that we have. And out in the back, we started with 4 beds, and then we went to 8 beds, and 8 went to 12 beds, and we're up to 14 beds now this year. So again, people can come in, and they can, when it's grown, they can buy the produce and pick it directly from the ground. With the veg boxes each week I do something free, always give a free produce, and this week it will be the spinach, so we'll cut that out and actually put that into the boxes this week. We've got turnips in, we've got broccoli and carrots, parsnips, onions, lettuce, and then our little incubators. They say about plastic, well I don't think you can get better recycling for plastic than that. So each little cabbage has got its own incubator, and it'll be on there for probably another 2 weeks. We're completely self-taught. The areas that we're walking through now were nothing 4 years ago. This border here wasn't here. This area here was a complete quagmire of sewerage. It was desperate. There was no lawned area. There was nothing. So in 4 years we've built all these borders. Try and get some flowers into the borders just so that we've got some bees coming into the garden. We do have a bee garden down the bottom. I don't know if we can actually get to it, or we can, yeah, where it's unmown and there's flowers in there. And I started a second one next to it as well down there to try and encourage bees in. So it's just about us trying to do what we can do, trying to encourage people to grow their own, trying to give them advice on how we've done it. I'm currently trying to look at The no dig options appeals greatly to my back. A little bit passionate, a little bit different, and just try. As I say, we've had absolutely no formal gardening education. I wasn't brought up with gardening parents. Feed ourselves for the winter. Grow now, forage now, store for the winter. We still have produce from last year in the winter. It'll be gone probably 3 weeks' time. It'll all be gone anyway, which is good because now we're on to the next season. So that's a bit about Bala Farm Shop. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, Jesus, John!
Hello, how are you doing?
Good.
Happy Jack.
You've been introduced to
This is my son.
I see, look, you're totally famous to us all now.
And Anna, who sort of runs around the market here, checks how many people there are and teases everybody up and make sure we've all got our masks on.
Yeah, not
I'm
very well.
actually really nice.
Well, there we go. That's our people in our market, Sue and John there with Valor. I hope you enjoyed that. And the really odd thing, of course, is all those masks, doing interviews with masks. Goodness, that's going to go down in history as well. It's very much the thing here in Ireland. And I'm glad to see Christine Henry. She's manager, does a fantastic job at the market there. So glad you're here. Jacob here, I know, is a smallholder himself. I'm not sure. You Czech Republic, are you, Jacob, or is it Poland? I forget where. I worked with Jacob many, many years ago. Fantastic man. Many years ago. It's about 15, 16 years ago. And Davina is around Communities First, as she was saying. And Claire, fantastic to see the market and the growth. Claire's been to the market several times and is familiar with the people. So it's lovely to get that. But we're going to have more. But food sovereignty, I think the one thing that video probably showed is what a lovely alignment of people food sovereignty is. It's all about what people grow, distribute, consume together, and the social activity that comes out of that as well. So it starts with ourselves and our family and being responsible for growing some of our own stuff on whatever land we have around us to start with, or a bit of land that we can get access to, like people in towns if they can get to an allotment, and people living in apartments. There's some fantastic work being going on. People growing in pots, in bags, in their balconies. Growing potatoes in bags has become quite popular. And it's amazing the amount of food that people can grow just by adjusting their apartment balconies. Fantastic stuff. As I was saying, growing potatoes in Hessian and cotton shopping bags. That works very well for balcony gardening. Now, some urban people as well, and there's a lot of YouTube videos going up about this. What they're doing, they're actually squatting unused land and cultivating that for a season or more of veggies and fruit. And I love that idea of growing food. It's really public land, isn't it? If it's council land, county land, it's lying idle, it is public tax-paid land. So why not? Just go ahead, plant stuff there. It's without possessiveness. Some people say, well, if I plant stuff in that wasteland, then someone's going to dig it up and, that's going to be a waste of investment. Surprisingly not. This is working out pretty successful. And it's all part, I think, of the community process that comes about from food sovereignty. A kind of a pay-forward attitude, wouldn't you agree? Where someone could later pass by and pull up some radishes or carrots or maybe spinach, for those of you who caught my earlier video. And they will eat it. They will not waste it. And maybe fruit as well. People... strawberries are easy to grow. They're popular for putting on wasteland, and raspberries too. Maybe a bit adventurous to put the apple and pear trees, but if a place has been waste for a long time, why not have a go? And this land squatting, it may seem to be a bit of boldness, but it's something that apartment people can do. So whether we have land at home or land that we have access to, the growing has to start with us. And that includes very soon our families, the neighbors, and this kind of expands out when people see what you're doing. They like to get involved, they want to be left out. So organically, communities start coming around to our growing, and it connects to all this lovely food sovereignty movements that's happened. And also with the unused land squatting, it seems to be community action and community service at the same time. It seems to me that when people do this, please leave people alone. Most places doing this wasteland squatting seem to avoid destructive vandalism. That's the nice thing. I rarely hear or read of this land squatting, this growing actually being vandalized. And maybe what's happening, and I hope this is what's happening, is former vandals who would have ruined stuff have actually got into this. They love the whole boldness of it, and they've got into the gardening themselves because they love the mischief of the squatting the land. I hope that's true. That's just wishful thinking in a way, but maybe that's why they're not being vandalized. So it's all about food sovereignty is all about taking back our food responsibilities, taking back our disrupted connections. Really what we seem to be drifting back to is all this with the food sovereignty. It's what humans have really done for thousands of years, since ancient times. And up to a couple of hundred years ago, hardly anybody carried currency in their pocket. It just wasn't earned. Survival was what was shared, what was bartered. And I think the Russians used to be very good at that. And I think they still are. I believe much of Russian agriculture is still food sovereignty based, providing food for the nation through community family farms, which is very different to the massive corporate farms of the USA and Europe. And in South America, the Aztec tradition is still lingering there. Locals maintain their local growing economies and bartered outside with other communities to make sure. The idea was barter with the outside communities so nobody goes without. You're all in it together, even though you're different tribes. But when the Spanish arrived in South America, they set up the haciendas. And so suddenly it was all about acquisition, creating profit and export. A real big change, unfortunately. But of course, like most cultural community systems, food sovereignty has also become politicized, unfortunately. There are websites I see popping up telling everyone how to do food sovereignty, but they're using political season jargon, which I find uncomfortable with. So, and one of the things you notice in these, growers suddenly become known as comrades, that sort of thing. But there are some national examples happening that are moving towards food sovereignty. Ecuador seems to have sorted this out very well. I wish I had the pictures for this, but their community growing has become recognized very much at state level. And apparently it gets a lot of good encouragement from state downwards, a lot of support. So Ecuador may seem quite unique because, as we know, around the world, governments and corporations are very much in regime together. So food policies in the food security realm is greatly favored by most countries. Anyway, Bolivia was impressed with Ecuador, and they set up a food sovereignty. They tried to copy Ecuador, and so that's encouraging. They started encouraging and supporting their people too. And despite all its political troubles, Venezuela has even moved forward into food sovereignty agriculture. And then we go over to Africa, Mali, Senegal, in Africa, and they're now supporting food sovereignty policies, and Nepal's moved on that. And because Nepal has, I'm very surprised that we haven't heard of Bhutan getting into this too. Maybe they are on the quiet. But one of the fascinating stories, I think, is in Canada, north of Lake Ontario, the Huron people. There's more of a tradition, and they've been well into food sovereignty. And the difference here is for food sovereignty, they have councils to oversee this. And the councils are formed by women. And this was due to the tribal belief that the connection to the land was in the realm of women. So these councillors of women served the food growing directives. And this is funny, as I say, I've got the videos today from the women, and they're perhaps laying the direction for the men that are working way in the background. Anyway, through these councils and through genuine food sovereignty, every decision through these women councils is based on what impact will the decision have on the land? What will the growing and feeding us have? And are the methods going to be sustainable?
Anyway, I think it's time, really, having said that, is to move on to our next guest video. Let's see what you're saying before we do. Davino, inspired by people doing this in computers, empowering basic need. And yeah, that sums it up brilliantly. Thank you for typing that in. Wipe the shelves. It did, and certainly that helped to get people into their lawns and so forth. I'm going to speak a bit more about that shortly. I didn't know that I sounded like a bogger. All right, lovely video, John. And there's Claire. Fantastic to see the market and the growers, as you say. So Lillian, that must be you. Must have been the people I didn't know the name of. Thank you for watching. Fabulous. And we got storyteller who we have featured, Bea Salmon Hawks, about fantastic. And I know why she's here. Bea puts up her stories each week on a lovely group that Kate Burrows kind of, what's the word? It's not so much monitors, I forget the actual word. Anyway, she's sort of the big cheese, I suppose. She, well, I forget the word. She looks after it and makes sure there's no crap on it. But it's a beautiful group, and it's creating the new normal. And talking of Kate, that's the video we got now. So this is Kate Burrows, Alan in the background, and there we have Kate introducing her Happy Jacks.
Hiya, I'm Kate Burrows, and this is Happy Jacks. We've been here about 1.5 years now. We've decided to turn it into a small holding. It was just an old house that had been empty for 20 years and 1.5 acres of land, and our aim is to be self-sufficient and sell our produce to our local community. We practice no-dig methods, we farm organically really, although we're not registered as organic. We practice self-sustainability, and food sovereignty is really important to us, and we'd like to try and produce everything that we need here. I'll show you around a bit of what we've got here on the property. Yeah, this is our goat run. This is our cottage here. It's just an old council built bungalow, and this is the old cottage out the back which the people used to live in years ago, and we've housed our goats out here. Having kids at the moment. This is Bo, and she's got babies in her tummy. We're waiting for her to pop any minute now, aren't we, Bobo? We've got our kidding pens. That's ready for Bo to go in. And this is Clara. She's just had triplets a couple of days ago. She's busy trying to eat and fill the void that they've left in her tummy. She was so huge. She was as wide as she is long. Here they are. Look at these little beauties. They're so pretty. 2 boys and a girl. And we're mainly breeding goats for dairy at the moment. We'll be keeping a few of the girls for dairy. The boys are for meat. And some of them we might sell. Ours called Hazel. And she's had 2 babies. Can you see them in the corner there? There's Zippy, the little farm dog. He's not much good. As a farm dog, I use it. Here's our polytunnels. This smaller one I use to start all my seeds, and we've got a heated bench in there. A few fruit bushes here. This is where I put a lot of cuttings that I take off blackcurrants and raspberries and elders. There's some hazel in there and a bit of willow. These are my seed saving plants. Look a bit pathetic at the moment because I only put them in there last night. They're basically stuff that's going to seed. So I take one of the best plants of each batch of veg I've got and put it in there and let it go to seed out of the way, so I can save all my own seed. So that's a bunch of rhubarb that's already going to seed. This is my big tunnel, which is a bit of a mess at the moment because I'm still taking out, we're still harvesting a lot of our winter crops at the moment. We're still in what you call the hungry gap. And we're still harvesting a lot of the winter stuff. And that's all my old last year's salad I'm just about to pull out today. And this will all be planted up with tomatoes and stuff in a few weeks' time. But I'm still waiting on the last of the frosts. We've got lots of flowers on our strawberries. Some chard. This will all be tomatoes down here very soon. And then out here I've got my main growing beds. There's our house. That was empty for 20 years. We're doing it up now. We've got all sorts of things growing, including basket tree willows, which eventually we'd like to grow a lot more of and use for biomass. We also grow a lot of willow all around the boundaries here and use that as windbreak. I also do a lot of dyeing and fibre work, and Alan makes rope, so we grow plants for that as well. This all looks a bit empty at the moment because I'm just about to plant everything up. Our last frost was in the middle of March last year, so I'm a bit wary of planting very much until that's over. And we sell a lot of our veg. Down at the gate there we've got a stall and we put things out there for sale. Our chicken eggs, bags of salad and raw goat milk I sell as well. Got potatoes in there, all of our peas and beans on all of those rows there. This will all be full up in the next few months. At the moment there's not a lot going on and I've still got a lot of weeding to do, a lot more planting out to do. This is all going to be squash in this big bed here. And then we've got geese over there in a pond. We've got chickens on the other side and a food forest, which has only just been planted up. And we're going to plant this whole area up with a mini orchard as well. So we've only been here 1.5 years, so we've still got an awful lot to do. And we hope eventually to have a geodome with aquaponics in. We're going to start doing charcoal again and a lot more fibre crafts and wood crafts and coppicing. We hope to offer lots of lessons here in basketry and spoon carving, spinning, dyeing. We do all of that kind of thing here. Next year, hopefully when this pandemic's all over, we'll be able to get on with a lot more. It's going to be all systems go with the growing in a moment. And we sell it to our local community, and also we sell it to a local restaurant called the Old Stone House. But we're just a micro farm, very small, and our aim is to provide for the community, and we've managed it last year. We produced an awful lot of food in this small space. It's surprising what you can grow in a tiny space like this if you maximise it. There's our chickens on the other side of our garden. There they are. That's our main egg layers. Just had their afternoon snack. And this is our big food forest area. And we've planted a lot of trees here. And willow, artichokes, fruit trees, fibre trees, basket tree making trees. They don't look like much at the moment because it's all so new. They just look like some sticks. I've made like a willow dome there and a tree circle over there, which I'm hoping this is going to be a tunnel that we're walking down now. It's going to be like a tree tunnel eventually leading to this tree circle, which I'm going to make a spiral kind of labyrinthy thing going to the middle with a standing stone. And we've got a pond over here which the geese use at the moment, and we hunt dugout. This is my biggest tree that I've got that came from Devon. That's as tall as me. This batch. Beautiful geese. I'm molting a bit at the moment. Oh, he's going to go for me. Wind your neck in, you. Wind your neck in. They've all been a bit aggy at the moment because they're laying. Thankfully, they're behind an electric fence. So I'll leave you on that note. Goodbye from Happy Jack's Market Garden.
And thanks very much to Kate for that. I'm sure she'll be watching this later, but making advantage of this sunny day at the moment. But that's, again, that's something that's really developed over the COVID time. They only moved into the house just before the whole COVID event came. And you might have seen videos. We haven't got any UK people, I think, but they one of these people that did a Hobbit home. They built a Hobbit home and they got into all the newspapers and television and so forth. And of course, it got into the attention of the council. And unfortunately, it was bulldozed down, which is, fortunately, they had family in Ireland and managed to settle here. And so it's fantastic in a short space of time. It just shows, get a piece of land, apply yourself to it, make that connection. And absolutely fabulous. So thanks, Kate and Alan, because you saw bits of Alan working in the background there. One of the things that's missing probably from today is, where is my garden? Where is my veggie garden here? I haven't featured that on this here. I must admit, I haven't done much yet. I usually don't really get going till May. In this lovely sunny weather we've had for a few days, I have been clearing out beds and preparing it, and I've got plants in pots. They've been repotted on, ready to go into the raised beds. But as you saw there, both with Kate and with Sue, we were really showing, it was very generous of them, but they're showing really at the early stages, because we can't really plant outside here until May, because we might get a frost tomorrow night. So that's the reason we're quite slow. But once everything's in May, it's very rapid. Now, there's a few comments. It was a lovely... there's Kate. She's on anyway. She's there. There's Kate. She's in the tunnel planting seeds, watching a great show. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And the people I was embarrassed, there's their name, Lee and Lilies of Meenamore Cottage Industries. And they were the ones in the courtyard market with fabulous salads and the kimchi. I really love the sauerkraut. And they have various baking soup, fantastic soup each week. It's really lovely. Oh, they just started doing the most delicious granola. The dried fruit in it is absolutely fabulous. It reminded me of the dried fruit when Claire and I were in Thailand and up in the mountains with the tribes there. The dried fruit we got there, especially the dried strawberries, and it was in their granola. Absolutely fabulous. Let's see who else. And there's Claire complimenting what wonderful work and flourishing. Lovely to see all the animals. That's great. That was great fun, isn't it? And then William Neck in there. And I know that Kate said that was very inspiring. No, she said something about inspiring. There you go. There go. And there's someone out feeding on the YouTube, Candice, feeding in the yurt, is that? Fabulous. All right, it's great. Thanks for joining. And Kate, thank you, Claire. Oh, yeah. the Lee and Lily's sausage rolls are the best. There you go. And if you didn't know, Kate was there in the market as well. I was saying we should be coming up later. So I'm sort of gone overtime because I had to repeat some of it due to the sound problem, which seems to be back again. Oh, Bayer's come on with something here. Let's have a look. Can't wait for this bloody lockdown to be lifted. There we go. We're packed. So with the food security, there seems to be a lot of passing the buck. You know, we've been presenting the idea of local food sovereignty, but one of the things that concerns me, you know, such a lot of care, attention, what impact are we doing with food sovereignty? But food security It seems to be a whole process of passing the buck, I find. Not enough thought applied to land care and preservation. Not enough thought on protection and care of water. So bringing this back home, it seems that during this COVID time, as we've seen, more people are looking at their gardens with a revelation. Wow, this is precious. Why have we got this useless lawn? And with some people, their gardens have changed in value from being lawn mowing drudgery into a whole new faith, a new belief. It's like the veggie garden has become their new outside church. And it's all about passion for a piece of land. It's not about yield, how much yield can be crafted from the land. It's about applying responsibility to our surroundings. And the gardening is part of that. And when you do this with the gardening, especially food forest and apple trees, pear trees, and when you got plants, one thing, and you might have heard it during this session, is the birds start returning, because where I'm sitting, this was a bog. There was nothing here. There was no wildlife. In fact, your feet would just sink down, but there's all these willows, there's the alders, there's a few ashes, drinking all the water, and now you can walk here all year round. And the birds are here, and there's a living community. There were hares roaming around here at some point, pine martens. They work here. But regarding food security, I think Ireland is a very good example of actually food security success, if you can call it success. And sadly, what's well known is the famine years in Ireland, the 45 to 49. But now Ireland, with its population of, was it 4.5 million, now produces apparently enough food for 35 million people. And the goal is actually to increase that to 50 million. Ireland feeding 50 million people, and doing that with going from 35 to 50 within 10 years. However, as you can imagine, that's not localized, not the greatest news, because Ireland is importing a lot of food. All this food for 35 million people, Ireland is importing a hell of a lot. Why? Or some people say it's to firm up trade deals with other countries to export food to us. And I think the most famous trade deal that was attempted was with Boris in the UK, because it lost the export opportunities to Europe by Brexit, needed other export opportunities for the goods that are kind of manufactured and processed in the UK. So they had to look to other countries. And of course, Trump was saying, yeah, we'll buy from you instead of Europe, because he didn't like Europe very much anyway. I will buy from you as long as you buy our agriculture, as long as we can export our food to you. Don't grow your own food. We can supply our chlorine chicken and all the rest of it. So this is the sort of thing, trade deals as a kind of massive corporate barter. So does this mean Ireland trades its industrial food to get other suppliers? Apparently that is what happens. So with food security, what seems to happen is we're not part of its sovereignty. I feel that food security seems to be a policy for surrender. We're surrendering ourselves to it. Our only sovereignty is in our one vote. But often I feel that vote, all it does is enhance someone else's career. It's like political candidates are winning the lottery of earning the big salary from the public income tax coffers. Again, I don't usually go political on these sessions, but the thought here is, how can we compete with food security with our own local, from our garden, food sovereignty? Especially when I think to my approach as a child. If you met those of you who caught at the beginning, where I had a little patch of garden, growing with radishes, spinach and carrots. And I hope something somewhere has encouraged you to engage somehow in your own little bit of food sovereignty, even if it is that little box growing your spinach, carrots, and a few potatoes maybe. But right now, the food sovereignty movement of Ireland and most places is still in its baby steps. And each year we learn a bit more from our own small food growing. Each year we get another raised bed, or we do something extra. And sometimes we get the opportunity to get a bit more land to expand with, maybe from a local farmer, or maybe a neighbor is impressed with what we're doing and say, why can't you join me? Let's get this together. And sometimes people who started their food sovereignty passion in their gardens end up selling up and they buy a small farm somewhere. You know, there are plenty of farms up for sale lately. And that gives them more land. And it's amazing how many people have moved onto a farm that used to just have a few cattle or sheep, and they've turned it into food forestry. There's one in Wicklow's growing commercial hazelnuts along with crab apples. It's amazing what's happening. Of course, the native trees are increasing. So people with that are young with a family, they're all enthusiastic about this new use of farmland. There's one farm near here where this happened exactly like that. Young family moved from, I think it was urban, I'm not sure. And they moved into this lovely place, I think near Loch Arrow, Drummondilra. And soon Drummondilra have expanded so much that they're going to be expanding into 3 retail and dining outlets, mainly from stuff that's blossomed and bloomed and expanded from their own farm. So that's what's going to happen with them when the COVID goes away. It's like 100 monkey effect, if you're familiar with that. Maybe we're on the baby steps, but this food sovereignty lark may just kick in from the home garden baby steps to the food sovereignty farms that spring up, and it becomes the local way of life. And then the local politicians will notice, because when they do, that's when Ireland could be like what Ecuador and Bolivia are doing with their national food policies, Bali, Nepal. And politicians are going to have to move in with that if this is what we're doing in mass, if they want to keep their high salary jobs. So now you may be wondering, why have I changed the name from Sunday Sessions to Nature Folklore? Because here I am talking about something practical rather than highly spiritual folklore. Well, to me, much of the rest of the year will connect. These sessions will connect with folklore, but the folklore actually still connects to the land, our sanctuaries, and our sovereignty approach. Because below the ground, if you think about it, it's where all the action happens. It's where the seeds are giving birth to the plants. And the roots are hunting underground for food to feed the plants that become our food. And so the soil, when you think about the folklore and what's going on underground, the soil is suddenly very precious. It's a very highly spiritual realm, in my opinion, that we have here on earth. It's not that place in the sky. To me, it's down in the earth. You know, the place where the devil is. And all those tales of serpents of life and dragons underground, all waiting to fly out. It's where the fairies and the she live too. And all of these characters and images that we have of folklore, that should really, to me, inspire us with a love and respect of what is there and not be afraid of it. Our sovereignty is very sound when we sustain love of these folklore entities. They're entities of life, aren't they? And it doesn't matter how we imagine them below the ground, and they're coming up out of the ground through our water too, through our trees, and through the food that we'll eventually eat. And through this, we'll have extreme gratitude and pride, don't we? And look at the people on the video that we had today. So that's really what I got to say on food sovereignty today. So I'm going to pass the subject over to you. Ask some questions. And we're running over time, but I don't mind. I hope you don't mind. Let's see what you've got to say. Dwayne says it's okay to be political. Shelley's got something long here. Same here, not really safe to plant much. Yeah, in May, but perennials and herbs, yeah, they're doing well. The herb labyrinth here is doing fantastic. Thanks for the update there, Shelley. Fantastic. And that's all inspiring too. And about the happy place it is. Wonderful. And there's right, my garden's not started yet, but waiting for the last frost before I plant. Still plenty of time, Joey. We've got the whole summer. And of course, once the soil warms up, boom, it's all incredibly fast, keeping up with it. And of course, the joy of the harvest from Lunas onwards. And Candice is feeling the unicorns. So that's, thank you. Now, don't go away. Don't go away now, because as I managed at the start of the sessions, as I say, these nature folklore sessions, they They're largely due to the support of Patreon subscribers. I come up with that each week, of course, and because I have to pay to host these sessions in the way we do. Sorry I didn't have the pictures today, but I hope you enjoy the videos. I'm slowly developing the nature folklore course, which is going to be free for the subscribers. So if you can subscribe $1, euro, pound or more a month, it really all helps. So thank you very much for that. So what's coming up? What's coming up on the coming weeks? I do have pictures for these. These are about as much as I managed to post. So next week, what we got? We got the 2nd of May, the holiday weekend. We got Belting the Flowers and the Maybush folklore. So that's going to be very much a folklore time. And then the 9th of May, we've just got to continue with this delicious May folklore. The hawthorns are out, so we'll have the May and flowers, the fairy stories for May. And I'm sure Bayer will have a story for them, at least. But get your stories in for that. That's going to be fantastic, a lot of fun and a lot of motivation. And then 16th of May, we come back a little bit to the practicalities. It's really talking about the underground a lot more, the biodiversity in the soil and our connection, and how what's around us becomes a passion, not what's just growing around us, not that beautiful, just the sun and the clouds and everything in the sky, but that love and beauty of everything that's below us, which seems religions or... It's amazing how much fear is generated by people about what's below the ground, the sort of creepy crawly bugs and the serpents and the devil, of course, and everything below the ground has horns. Of course they have horns and need feelers and so forth. I suppose once you get above that, it just seems all amusing and not surprised with the cartoons. So just to have a little look at what you're all saying here. I hope you don't mind that we've gone over time. Almost done. And there's Tina around next week. Love the topic. I bet you will. Get something in for us, Tina. That'd be lovely. Bea says she's going to have a story for May. That's great. And Damina's going out to get some herbs. She's only just moved into a place. That's a great example. Damina's just moved into Virginia there. Boom. Some actions happening already. Kate's enjoy this. Thanks. Late in today. Yeah, it's worth going to the beginning. Some lovely videos today, Tina. It's a bit of a different approach. Had to repeat some of it, unfortunately, due to sound went out. So thank you. This has been fabulous. Hope you enjoyed that without the pictures again. And thanks again to, let's get, I've got a picture there that shouldn't be there. Hold on a moment. I'll get rid of the picture so you can see my mug one last time. Now, where is that? Okay, now we're back in order again. Fingers and thumbs. So thank you again to our amazing guest today. We had the home market gardeners of Cape Borough and Sue McMillan, and the people of Courtney Market in Boyle. There was Jenny of Verret Nurseries, breeder there. There's more comments with her eggs. And then the absolutely glorious Meenamore cottage people who one day I'm going to memorize their names properly, which is really embarrassing. But there they are again, Lee and Lily. Lee and Lily. I should remember that. You know, lilies are such a beautiful flower. And then there's the famous Rivoli in Cork. And then Lillian even is burning a great show. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I eventually got to mention the Hope is properly. So thank you, Lillian, and to Leah as well. And if you're watching this, as some people come in late, or you're watching this later as an archive video, still keep commenting, because I'll still answer you. People are making comments from stuff I put up a year ago. So I do return from time to time to answer comments. Subscribe and click on the bell icons. They're on YouTube. I think they're on Facebook as well. And that reminds you of the next Sunday session each week. So enjoy a safe week full of wonder, inspirations, and enchantments. There's going to be a lot in May coming up. I love that month. So until next Sunday, play well. Thank you for joining us. Absolutely wonderful people, and your comments. Bye. Bye.